Well, the federal government has ended a freeze on the processing of Afghan asylum seekers. The suspension has been in place for 6 months while the government studied conditions in the war-torn nation. Now the immigration minister says processing can resume because the department has gathered more information, and he's hinted that more claims will be rejected. From Canberra, Hayden Cooper reports.
It's a policy that sparked protest and dismay among Afghan asylum seekers. But after almost 6 months, the freeze is over.
Mr Speaker, after close and careful consideration, the government has formed the view that we should lift this suspension, and I'm announcing that that will occur effective immediately.
Claims will now be processed. Those who've waited the longest will be at the front of the queue.
We are taking steps to increase the resources, that's well known, that go into considering these claims.
Close to 1,200 Afghans have arrived since the suspension began in April. Their time in limbo only added to the strain on detention facilities. But the minister has no regrets.
I do think it was the right decision at the time, just as I think the decision I'm announcing today is the right decision for this time.
This was a ridiculous policy that has filled up our detention network, putting it into crisis at significant expense for the Australian taxpayer.
Those who've always opposed the idea are pleased to see the back of it.
It was neither practical nor humane, and of course was never going to work in the long term.
This is something which we've been critical of for some time, and it's a welcome development to see that some changes are finally being made.
But Chris Bowen's policy move raises one question: what's changed in Afghanistan?
It's not as simple as saying everything's now fine in Afghanistan or everything's very bad in Afghanistan. Each individual case needs to be considered on its merits. What we now have is a situation that the department has more context to make those individual case-by-case decisions.
The basis for today's decision, the so-called guidance note for Afghanistan, is yet to be released. But the minister is sending a clear warning. From now on, more claims than before will be rejected.
Even taking into consideration the possibility of some of these being overturned at review, the percentage of successful refugee claims is likely to be lower than in the past.
But they can't be deported until a deal is done with the Afghan government. True to campaigning form, this issue has been one of Tony Abbott's chief attack points in Parliament this week. But the mood in question time under new standing orders has certainly changed, and not just for those on the front lines.
Order!
The Speaker himself has a new set of rules to enforce.
Order, the House will come to order.
And in today's effort,
Member for Boothby can sit down.
Harry Jenkins was losing patience even with his own.
Order, the Prime Minister will come back to the question. Order.
You've got to look out the window
Prime Minister will not
to
debate
work
and
out.
answer.
Secretary
Order, the Treasurer would be starting to argue the case.
The Treasury
He's going to keep on that line.
But the first MP to be turfed in the new Parliament...
The member for Sturt will leave the chamber for 1 hour.
...was Christopher Pyne.
Right.
For calling the Prime Minister hopeless.
He's obviously not going to take any nonsense from either the government or the opposition.
He's going to mend his ways, I'm sure.
It's good to see the Parliament is still quite robust, and I'm looking forward to coming back next time.
Hey guys, another day in paradise.
They'll all return in a fortnight.
Home to mother.
Hayden Cooper, Late Line.